Welcome into the Irish Squad Show. I'm Joe George, and man, Notre Dame's got a kicking problem.
And I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-America. Is Notre Dame last year's Alabama team when it comes to the college football playoff?
I'm Reggie Brooks, 1993 All-American. And our fourth down woes continue. I mean, at some point in time, we got to figure this thing out.
And I'm Allison Hayes. I've been covering the Irish for 20 years. They say there's no such thing as a bad win, but this one was ugly.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Irish Squad Show here on the Locked On Irish YouTube channel. Joe George, Alan Pinkett, Allison Hayes, and Reggie Brooks here with you today. This episode's brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, guys, the Irish win by 15. They don't cover, not even close. It's, as Allison said at the very beginning there, it wasn't pretty, this game. There's a lot to dive into, from the kicking woes, the offense's performance, not running the ball, fourth down issues, the defense being mostly good, but I've got some nitpicking of my own to do, and the college football playoff rankings, the real rankings that matter, come out on Tuesday, so we'll discuss that as well. But, Alan, we'll start with you, just your overall thoughts on the win today for the Irish and how they looked.
Well, I'm convinced that the only team that can beat Notre Dame is Notre Dame, and they tried to do it today, but they were able to overcome themselves and find a way to win. I know that they were frustrated, had lots of emotions, but they're still a Marcus Freeman-led team, which means eventually they're going to get it right and come up with some things that helped them win. And so they got the desired outcome that they wanted, was the victory, but I don't know if they helped themselves in terms of the eye test and the college football playoff ranking, but we still have a long time and a lot of carnage to deal with before we get to the final rankings. So I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't in this week's rankings, but down the road, I expect to see them.
Reggie?
This is not good. I'm sorry. You can't sugarcoat this in any way. They came out flat. Again, there was no intensity, no drive. I mean, this did not look like a Coach Freeman coach team. It was a lot of penalties that were, some were poor officiating, but some were just lack of discipline. So coming out of the bye week, I mean, this is the second time in a row you come out of a bye week and you don't look as sharp or crisp as you would hope this team would be. So this was a slugfest. And again, you knew Boston College was going to come in, put their best foot forward. They're at home. But Boston College is not a good football team. I'm sorry. They're not a good football team. And to struggle the way the Irish did in this game is borderline unforgivable. I mean, this is not the team. This is not a team that's prepared or ready to compete at a playoff level right now. And I again, can it be corrected? Yes, but they've got to do something to instill some discipline and some focus and some commitment to doing the little things the right way. And I have no doubt that Coach Freeman is that type of coach. So now we just got to get guys to play at that level. And there's a level of frustration from my standpoint, again, with the running game. Like, you don't let the team dictate to you whether you're going to run. I don't care if you got 8, 9, 10 in the box. You got two of the most dynamic runners in college football. You force the issue. You force the issue right out the gate and say, hey, yeah, we may just get, 5 here, 3 here, 2 here, but we're going to keep this running game going and really, make it to where when CJ Carr drops back the pass, he's throwing to in clear lanes because they sold out to stop the run versus just kind of like, oh well, we'll just show you a number of numbers in the box and then you check out of it. No, we're going to force and dictate the action, and I think that's who Notre Dame is. And I thought a couple of weeks ago we'd established that from the USC game that Notre Dame is a running football team. You run the ball and play action, and then go downfield, because you got a quarterback can do it. But I'm very disappointed in how this team came out, and just the lack of intensity and the lack of running game. And I would, I guess I'm going back to again, would love to see the quarterback under center. That would be really nice at some point.
Well, I am glad, first of all, that Reggie, you kept it very real there, because in our group chat, in the text messages, you keeping it real with us. And I'm like, okay, how's he going to come out in here? Is he going to sugarcoat? Is he going to be nice? No, you are telling it like it is right now. That is a frustrating game. That is a game that absolutely Notre Dame should have dominated. We talked about it earlier in the week that the Irish, we expected to see the backups coming in the third quarter. We expected them to be up by 30 at halftime, let alone scoreless after the first quarter. So it was disappointing, and that was definitely a lack of discipline. And that does come down to coaching. And I'm not trying to criticize and say that this is, oh, Marcus Freeman didn't do this or anything, but your guys, we've all talked about it. They live and die, and they reflect their coaches. And so their job is to have them ready so they aren't flat. We talked this week. I talked to both of you guys as former players about coming out of a bye week, coming out with all that momentum, 5 straight wins, but going up against an inferior team. And I know as a media member, as a fan, as former players, we all looked at this matchup and was like, oh, they're going to blow them out. Notre Dame is going to dominate. This isn't even going to be close. And it looked like maybe the Irish felt that way too. Like some of these players thought that they were going to just dominate, and they didn't. I don't know. I mean, that's the frustrating part of it. And that shouldn't happen at this level. At this stage in the game, they know how important each one of these wins are. Yes, they got the win 25-10. They squeaked one out, but it was not pretty. And those style points are going to count. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that more as we get into this show, but they did not do themselves any favors when it comes to the CFP. They are a bubble team. And so at 5, now 6-2, but with 2 losses, they've got to dominate these opponents that they should. They had a 93% winning percentage against this team. And they looked like they were on the ropes at times. Like there was a chance that if you let BC hang around long enough, that you never know what could happen. So they are fortunate to get out of there with a win. And there were some good things, obviously, that happened. And we joked, though, this week that no matter what, how good of a win, how they were going to win by, 4 touchdowns, that Marcus Freeman was going to find the things to nitpick and go through. Well, he's got a lot he can go through. And that starts with that kicking game. 3 kickers, and not one of them's ready for the big time. That's a problem. And I don't know if they need to start having an open tryout just to get some motivation going with these guys, but that's inexcusable.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the kicking game, so I don't have to be the bad guy. So
it was awful. I mean, it's 3 kickers missing extra points and field goals. It's one thing if it's one guy, because then the next week you just go to the backup and it's okay. Well, that guy lost his job. We'll go to the next guy. But 3 different players missing extra points or field goals in this game. It's a huge problem. We saw it was a problem last year for Notre Dame before their kicker got healthy going into the playoff and everything kind of figured itself out. But last year there was an injury excuse built into the kicking game. This year, unless there's something that I'm not aware of, there's no injury.
Burnett has been dealing with that hip injury pretty much the entire season, but nothing that we know about with Eric Schmidt or Diomede.
You got one job.
Yep.
Kick it. Make it.
You got one job. We're not asking you to tackle anybody. We're not asking you to catch nothing. We're not asking you to run anywhere. All you do is kick. That's your job. Just one job.
I do wonder
too much.
I do wonder too, like,
one job.
That last extra point that was missed, I think by Schmidt. if you look, when they showed the replay, so I want to like really go back and I guess watch all of these. It didn't look great getting the process of up to the kick itself either. Like the ball is spinning. Like it looks like it's not a perfect snap and hold. So it feels like maybe it's more of an operational thing entirely with this team too. Like so maybe it's not just the kickers that are the problem, but it's hard not to look at this game and think, okay, Notre Dame, can be a playoff team, but you got to make a big kick in the playoffs. There's no one you trust right now. That's terrifying in this moment. And they're college kickers. Everyone always makes fun of college kickers. I think rightfully so. You can't really trust them. But this is tough, Alan. This is tough.
I don't know how you go back to the basics, but I think that's what you have to do and look at the entire operation and maybe have to put some more time in because there's something that's off, whether it's the rhythm of the center snap to the holder or the holder not getting the ball down or getting the laces out. I don't even know if they point the laces out anymore. They used to always have to have the laces pointed out. Or, with 3 different kickers, you're going to have 3 different speeds coming into the football. So they have to really pick one and then drill his butt to death in terms of operation and get sound on that operation and maybe put some more emphasis on it because there will come a time where Notre Dame is going to need the kicker to be on point. And so sort of lucky right now that you don't necessarily need the kicker, but there's going to come a point and we need to nail that down. That's quite frankly embarrassing on this level to not be able to make an extra point.
And just to break down who did what on that, just looking at the stats right now, it was Eric Schmidt missed the field goal, but he did make his extra point. Okay. Noah Burnett missed the extra point. He was the starter. He's the one that's been dealing with the hip injury sort of all season, on and off. And then Marcello Diomede, he missed the final extra point. So they did go 1 for 3 on extra points, but had the missed field goal. So I digress, but that's just the breakdown of who did what.
Kickers are head cases.
It is a total mental game.
No, no doubt it is. I've been fortunate to be around some like really good kickers. John Carney, Craig Hendrick, and and talking to those guys again. If you talk about the yips and all these different things, it is literally the importance of mental toughness to lock in. Yeah. The one thing I want to also mention is, did anyone see when they were on the sideline and the kickers were laughing and joking?
Yes.
That pissed me off. Yeah. That flat out pissed me off. I'm like why are you laughing? What are you laughing about after you just did what you did? I mean, I think we had 1 field goal or one extra point was made for the game.
Yeah. For the game.
Like, come on. This is what, like I said, and people get on me all the time. It's like, what do you have against kickers? It's not necessarily the person, but you got one job. Like Reggie Ho, Dr. Ho, a friend of mine. Craig Hendrick. Craig Hendrick is a hell of a football player. Friend of mine, one of my boys. But dude, you got one job. And the fact that they were on the sideline kind of joking and laughing. Oh my gosh. Oh,
not a good look.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
It goes back to some of the other issues that we'll talk about in this game too, but I don't know if it's the best plan exactly to say, let's just go for 2 every time, because they haven't exactly been great in those situations either. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So like, are you going to kick it or are you going to go for it, where you haven't been successful in short yardage situations this entire season? Like one of those has to get figured out, because you might just have to start going for 2. I couldn't believe they kicked that last extra point even. I was like, let's just start going for it.
Well, okay, because again, they're good about going for it. But I mean, why is it so hard the concept of running under center? Is it that he can't do it, or I just don't understand they were in the pistol, and again when Jadarian ran the ball, he was again able to come downhill and get the handoff. And AP, this is like I said, it makes a difference. It's very hard for outside defenders off the edge to make a play on a running back when they're going downhill
Yep.
and going with momentum toward the line of scrimmage.
Especially if you get a push, then they're just going to run right by you.
Yeah. They're not even in play. And you saw that with, like I said, last week with Miami. I'm sorry, a couple of weeks with USC. It was just like they shouldn't even be in the and you see it happen, and then they go to that long hand or slow handoff or whatever you want to call it, RPO, and our guys are getting hit in the backfield. That is so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our first break here. Let's take a look more into what we saw from the offense today. 25 points, it's not a lot. You got some help from your defense as well in this one, just giving you the ball in good position. But let's break down what we saw from the offense. We'll do that next year on the Irish Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, let's give it to Don Schuler, that interception. This game it's getting tight there. Boston College is driving for the whole third quarter, basically, and he gets the pick to get the Notre Dame the ball back there. So we'll use that as the moment that moved the game forward today. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Allison, I'm going to throw this one to you first. What did you think of what we saw from the offense's performance in this game?
Well, to wrap up kicking, also, by the way, that missed field goal was a 35-yard field goal. That wasn't a 55-yard field goal. That wasn't a career-long attempt. That was a 35-yard field goal. So that is also frustrating. Those are extra points, and a 35-yard field goal, those should be automatic. Those should be given. So that is definitely something that they are going to have to continue to figure out so that they can move forward. We talked all week about the improvements that needed to be made on fourth down and in the red zone, and that continues to be an issue. The fumble in the red zone by Jadarian, that is an issue with him, and that's got to be a mental thing. And you guys can talk about that, Alan and Reggie. This is not the first fumbled ball by Jadarian, and I hate to see it happen because I love Jadarian so much. But I believe that's his third of the season. I know he had one against Miami, had one somewhere in the middle there, I think, and then had one tonight. And what is the deal with that? How do you get someone to not fumble the ball? And I know at one point, I think against Miami, they sat him. That happened last year as well. Does that get into the guy's head even more? I don't know. That was perplexing to me, and I hated to see that. I love to watch CJ Carr drop back and find his receivers like he did. And that was very, very, it was just fun to watch. I had a feeling that Will Pauling might have a good game, but Malachi Fields, I was happy to see him get another one. He finished with 52 yards. His touchdown was a 26-yard. Oh, no, excuse me. His longest was a 40-yarder. He was averaging 26 yards a catch. And then Pauling, he finished with 73 yards. Jordan Faison, he had 82. I would have liked to have seen that Eli Raridan got some action today, just 3 receptions for 59 yards. We still have not seen him get into that end zone. I want to see that happen. The run game, though, that was surprising to me. You look at Jeremiyah Love's numbers. He finishes with 136 yards, but 94 of them all came on that one run, which was awesome. And that was, you talked about Don Schuler in our commercial break there, that interception, that really shifted everything. Then the next possession, we get the ball back and Jeremiyah Love breaks off a 94-yard touchdown run. And then the game sort of felt like, okay, they got this. It's good. We're all good. But before that, Love had 23 yards rushing in the first half. So they really worked at trying to slow them down. And really, until that 94-yard run, Boston College did a very good job of doing just that. And so that's interesting moving forward as well, because at points they were stacking the boxes, 7 guys on the line, and it was working. So they really just, were able to break free on that one big one. But those are the biggest, I guess, concerns for me is, still that kicking issue, but then everyone's going to try to stop or slow down the run game. And to an extent, it worked. Against last week against Louisville, Boston College gave up over 300 yards rushing to Louisville. So they really, I mean, I expected more out of the run game today.
Well, it didn't feel like it, but the offense did amass 458 yards.
Yeah.
Even though they lost the time of possession battle, Boston College had the ball for over 35 minutes. So Notre Dame had to hurry up when they did have it. I was a little disappointed in the not going to the running game more. I don't care how many people they put on the defensive line, because there are creases there sometimes. But you can't ignore the fact that, when CJ goes down the field, he's usually successful. I mean, I see 4 explosive plays when I look at the stats over 35 yards, 4 of them to receivers. So that is definitely a weapon. But I guess I go back to what you said, Reggie, about this is a running football team. We have to set up everything based on how we run the football. And like I said, I don't care how many people they put on the line of scrimmage. We can get 2, we can get 5, but you want to keep at it, because for all those times you get no gain and 2 yards, one's going to bust for 50. One's going to bust for 90. And I have to say that on the 94-yard run, who Jeremiyah Love reminded me of? Le'Veon Bell. You know how he used to hesitate in the backfield, and then he would see his crease, and then he'd step on the gas and get through the hole? That looked exactly, although he looks like he's faster than Le'Veon Bell. Jeremiyah Love, excuse me. Jeremiyah Love looks like he's faster than Le'Veon Bell. But, we at one point, Reggie, thought that he was forcing the issue, predetermining his reads. But lately he's been, sort of not necessarily taking his time, but allowing the play to develop in front of him before making his decision to accelerate through the hole. And he's gotten a lot better at doing that. But yeah, that 94-yard run is really what broke the back, and it did cause us to think, okay, we've got enough separation here where we feel like, we were always going to win the game. But having that distance and score is something that was needed just for the psychological well-being of the team and the Notre Dame nation.
Well, I kind of to that point, I think, again, that run was an accumulation of what they had done previously in the first half. Again, they were getting 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. And when you do that consistently, again, you got 4 downs, technically 4 downs to get 10 yards. If you're going 3 yards a clip, that's, you get 12 yards. And my point of pushing that narrative is, when you do this consistently, it wears down a defense, first of all. And, when you're pounding on a defense and you're, taking and you're being aggressive, again, I always come to the concept of hammer versus the nail. Are you going to be the hammer or are you going to be the nail? Offensive linemen love to be the hammer. And you're the hammer when you're coming off the ball and hitting somebody in the mouth. You're the nail when you're pass setting and catching. So there's a different concept there. And it's like I said, that's why I would love for Jim Brock to say, stick with that. Yeah, it may not be, a lot of, I'm not saying run the ball every time, every down.
It's not pretty. Yeah.
No, it's just, but you be consistent with that, because that's your identity. And when you're an offensive team, the rhythm comes from working within your identity as a run team. So when you get to the play action, those, over the top passes are a little more open. Those drag routes are a little more open, because, when you have an offensive line, whether it's the offensive line, tight ends hitting you, whether you're a linebacker, defensive lineman, defensive back, it makes a difference in the game psychologically of you have to prepare yourself to withstand that contact. So you're bracing for it. And when you're bracing for that and it doesn't come, your feet have been stagnant for a little bit. So that gives you that extra bit of time to get the ball downfield on a pass play. But it's something that Jerry Rice, he would always come off the ball the same way, whether he was blocking or running a route. And it got into the psyche of the defender, like, hey, I don't know if this guy's coming to hit me in the face or he's coming to run by me. And these are the things I said that the little things that you do matter. And so when you're kind of like, who are we? Who are we as an offense? Defensively, I thought we got better. We'll say it was a lot of guys running free, and had a teammate, Corny Southall, was like, "What coverage are we in?" Because it was just so many times you saw guys running free, and James did a great job of kind of last minute getting the ball out and finding the open man.
Yeah,
but it was really close. I mean, so we were always right there hitting him. So it's just the little things that you do in coverage. It's the little things that you do, pass protection, running the ball, run blocking, that it all works together. And you got to develop a rhythm or flow of who you are, but you got to define what your identity is. And it just frustrates me that we either don't want to or refuse to define that issue of who we are as a running football team.
I think Denbrock, to me, Denbrock feels like he's got this shiny new toy in CJ Carr. So he wants to continue to throw the football, especially downfield. And there are advantages to doing that because it's one of those pass sets up the run type of situations. But if we go run to set up the pass, when you run, Reggie, you said it, you not only take time off the clock, I mean, you take a defense's soul, you take their heart away. When you keep, running and you're gaining 4 and 5 and 7 and 10 on them, you will make a defense quit. And so that is what I thought the personality of this offense was going to be. Not there yet. They've shown, flashes. They've shown some signs, but not there yet. But I view this as an offense that can just straight up systematically pummel your ass.
Yeah, they have that capacity, and it's just a matter of willing yourself to do it. And again, it's hard for a coach again when you play calling, because play calling is not an easy thing. There's a rhythm that goes with it, and just understanding your team and what capability, and also reading the defense as well to make those calls. I'm not a big fan of, like I said, putting in the hands of CJ yet of him audibling, because this happened in Miami. They gave him a lot of freedom to say, okay, hey, you read the defense and you make the call. And it seemed, again, I'm not saying that that's what happened today, but it seemed like that was the approach as, hey, if you see this many in the box, then we're going to RPO run. We're going to go to the pass. I think you have to dictate that, because a couple of weeks ago, Coach Freeman, they say, hey, he made it mine. You're not going to beat me passing, throwing, and catching. We're going to stop the run. And they were getting some they were catching some passes, getting some things in the passing game, but they were not allowed to run the football successfully. And I think that's one of the reasons that Notre Dame won this game too, is that they stuck to that principle about, from a defensive standpoint, we're going to stop the run. You may get some throws and you may catch, but we're going to hit you and tackle you after you catch the football. But you're not going to beat me throwing and catching, and you're not going to beat me by running the football, because we're going to stop that. And it seems like we kind of acquiesced to Boston College, saying, well, hey, since you're going to bring all these people up in the box and you're going to blitz, well, we'll just go to the pass. No, you dictate to the other team. I guarantee you, Louisville, they stuck with who they were in terms of that's why they rushed for over 300 yards, is because they said, hey, this is who we are. And we don't believe you have enough heart to stop us over the course of 4 quarters.
Yeah, the other thing I would point out too from the offense in this game is the 3 for 10 on third down. It's just not good enough. I mean, you look at Boston College in this game goes 8 for 18, like that. Specifically that first drive of the third quarter where the Irish defense, who we'll talk about in the next segment, just couldn't get off the field, but they were just converting on 3rd and 4th down, and Notre Dame just wasn't able to do that today. We saw I think a very bad, poorly called fake punt. I mean, it was so obvious. Brock Osweiler he's it's a fake. Well, yeah, Jeremiyah Love's on the field. Of course it's fake. It was so. Now, if they would have tossed it to the guy running across, they might have got it. But he did your favorite thing there, Reggie. He tried to hurdle someone. But it was the 3rd down conversion is the other one for me in this game that just stood out in a negative way, that you couldn't convert, consistently enough in those moments. Like, yes, you put up a ton of yards, but 3 for 10 on 3rd down against Boston College is not going to cut it.
Unacceptable.
All right.
And I'll say this too: isn't it fun to criticize them after they win?
Yes, it's way more fun because they still won.
Well, yeah, they won, but it's like that is not a good football team. That is not a good football team. And what was the score between Maryland and Indiana?
Oh, it's like 55-10, something like that. That's what we were looking for. That's kind of what Notre Dame needs.
That's my thing. Again, when you dominate a team that you're supposed to dominate, that reflects in the rankings. That's why Indiana is number 2 in the country, is because they're dominating the teams they're supposed to dominate. And again, this comes back to you have to go out and compete every week. Every week. Miami is a prime example. SMU had been struggling, had been having some real struggles defensively. They came out and beat them because there's no consistency in who Miami is. And right now, this game, it shows that Notre Dame, there's a lack of consistency in who we are, a lack of understanding of who we claim to be. Because Coach Freeman said, we're going to be a team that runs the ball and stops the run. Well, if you're going to say that, you got to back it up with, the play on the field. And I look at the offensive line, and they have some struggles a little bit, but all in all, that offensive line was moving people. We were getting some movement up front, and I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but it makes a difference when a running back is running downhill toward the line of scrimmage with momentum to get 4, 5, 6 yards, and you have 2 of the most dynamic backs that have the power and the speed and the agility to execute those types of plays on a consistent basis. And that's the other thing. I would love to see more consistency in how we approach from an offensive standpoint. It's frustrating because it's just not happening.
Guys, Jadarian Price finished with 9 carries for just 12 yards. His longest on the day was a 5-yard run, and he was averaging 1.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. All right. Alan hit on something, so did Reggie there, about the defense. The guys being open. They only allowed 10 points in this game, but they converted a lot on 3rd down. Boston College did. There was guys open. Let's talk about what we saw from the defense and something we referenced earlier in the show, too, some of the undisciplined penalties and bad calls. We'll get to all of that next here on the Irish Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. It is the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most, so let's break it down. For Notre Dame, we'll go with Jeremiyah Love still today, who delivered in a big way. That 94-yard run, 136 yards on the day for the Irish. Needed it when it mattered the most, and he got the performance done for the Irish. And just like Jeremiyah Love delivered for the Irish, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits, Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, you referenced it there, Reggie. There's a lot of guys open. I mean, it just felt like they were almost getting to the quarterback. There was good pass rush, but there was just these guys who were just wide open in the middle of the field at various points in the game. Reggie, just what did you see from the defense and why you thought that was happening as best you could see in real time?
Well, the thing that I saw again, I think again, a lot of it was underneath routes. It was not a lot of throws down, down the field per se, but it was in that, I think, they had four catches, but nothing over 25 yards. So, when you think of explosive plays, you think, passing game 25 and up. So I really think it was just the fact that, guys were there, but, again, they were letting guys go. And I know they were trying to pass off a lot of the from a man-to-man standpoint, they were passing off guys, especially when you had motion outside or inside. They were passing guys off, and guys just weren't getting there. So it was just a slight. And again, they were right. They were wide open, but guys were close, but they were not doing a great job of communicating. And that's what that says to me. There's a lack of communication on those pass-offs. Or someone is not communicating, or someone's not understanding when you pass off a receiver in man-to-man. Hey, we're kicking it out. So if he motions all the way out, hey, I'm looking for you to come over and defend that guy. So I think it's just a matter of them getting on the same page as it relates to when you have coverage. You have to be able to, know what coverage it is, whether it's man or zone. And then if you're passing something off, you got to let the guy know. And, and I just don't think that was happening because there was a lot of the blitzes. You saw a lot of the linebackers getting after the quarterback. So you were nickel, and you were, like I said, nickel formation and little dime. But you have to be able to understand when someone is passing someone off to you, you got to see it and you have to acknowledge it. Because that was something I saw a couple of times where they said, "Hey, I'm," they pointed to the guy, but it didn't see a recognition of the person that they were passing off to. That, oh yeah, that's my guy now. So I just think there was some confusion there. That it's correctable, but also when you have those deals where you you're rushing more than 5 and you're rushing 6, hey. You have to be Johnny on the spot. And hats off to James. He did a great job of, at least putting the ball in the vicinity of the guy that he, Grayson James, he put the ball out there. But we also had at least, I know, 3 interceptions that were available to us that we didn't get.
Allison, what did you think of the defense today?
Well, if you look at the numbers, receiving-wise, yes, and I like to do that.
Yeah.
269 yards receiving on 30 different receptions, but just 1 touchdown. And so they gave up some yardage there, but then on the ground, they only gave up 12 yards rushing total. Of course, that's with a minus 21 for Grayson James getting sacked. But I think, overall, there were good big plays that were made when they needed to be made. That Adon Schuler interception, we talked about it. That was huge. That was a game changer right there because they had all the momentum in the world. Boston College is moving the ball down the field. If they'd have scored there on that possession, it's a totally different game. It could have been 18-17 at that point, and then who knows what happens. But that interception immediately led to Jeremiyah Love's 94-yard touchdown run. And we said it. I mean, that was the game at that point. So, sometimes though, it's not just luck, right? Like Tay Johnson on the ground, ball's deflected off of Adon. He's right there and he catches it for the interception. He finishes with 2 interceptions on the day. So yeah, it was frustrating to see guys open, but at the end of the day, I don't have a lot of complaints about the way the defense played. I thought they played well. I thought they came up with big plays. They had the interceptions. They had 5 sacks on the game. So overall, I think they did what they needed to do to get the job done. I was really more disappointed in what the offense had to do.
Yeah, and I'm not going to complain at all about the defense. I think, Allison, you pointed it out, 12 yards rushing. That's pretty stout. 269 yards through the air. The thing I like about the defense, though, was, to me, they immediately set the tone when they had to come in for their first series. I mean, it was such a quick 3 and out. I'm sure that C.J. Carr didn't have a chance to wipe the sweat off his brow that series went so fast. And even though Boston College did sometimes get in a rhythm, make some plays, the defense, they would be bewildered for 4 or 5 plays, and then they would remember who they were and make a stop. So they always had an answer. And I guess the proof is only 10 points on the board. For a team that had the ball for 35 minutes, you would think they would have put up 4 or 5 scores.
Right.
But the defense, was very, very important in terms of winning this game today, because the offense was beating themselves. Now, the only thing that I guess I'll say bad about the defense were the penalties.
Yes.
Some of the lack of discipline. And I know those guys are, hopefully they did a lot of squats because after this game, Marcus Freeman's going to chew most of their ass off. And so hopefully they got some left, when they get on the plane. But that is something that can be corrected. Some of the penalties I didn't understand. Especially
let's talk about that one.
The face
what
mask.
They called it disconcerting play call. Is that what they called it when in the fourth quarter and there was movement with the defense? And
oh yes,
I had never heard of that before. And so you guys explain that?
Tonight is the first time I heard that the face mask includes the whole damn helmet.
Yeah, I've never heard that. That one.
Yeah,
that's
most
like
of the time. I've heard that it's because you're imitating a clap, like the defense is clapping, trying to draw the offsides. But you see in the moment, one of the linebackers is shifting the defensive lineman there into the right position because he's lined up incorrectly. He's moving quickly just to be in the right spot. And we saw Marcus Freeman on that one. He didn't agree with it at all. But the refs we talk about it every week, Reggie. The refs were bad in this game. I disagree with the intentional grounding that they called on Boston College. The quarterback clearly thought the receiver was supposed to run deeper down the field. One of the roughing the passers on CJ was comically bad.
Yeah.
The face mask was atrocious call. It was
poor
terrible. Officiating once again.
It was a poorly officiated game. And I'm wondering, is that the same, officiating crew from the Boise State game? Because it was bad. And it's like, I think with the replay, it's at least in my opinion, it's made officiating a little lazier in a sense. They're not as sharp and they're calling the game because I don't know how you miss that was not a face mask.
Yeah.
Again, how do you interpret a pass roughing the passer again? But this goes back to my larger complaint that there's no NCAA officiating. It's
no one standard.
It's SEC, it's Big 10, Big 12. Everyone has American Conference. Everyone has their focus of what they're focusing on and how they're interpreting, the play, the calls and interpreting how to make the calls. Why can't we get a uniform group to say, okay, this is how you interpret pass interference. This is how you interpret holding. This is how you interpret, roughing the passer. This is how you interpret. Well, again, you can't interpret face masks. Either you did it or you didn't.
Well, look, we can keep asking. We can keep asking, but as long as we have conferences, we're going to have conference officials.
Yeah,
that's probably. And the other one, and sorry to interrupt, but the one that kind of baffled me too was when Notre Dame picked up the fumble and ran all the way to the end zone. They didn't blow it dead. And I'm like, why are y'all wasting time on this? The dude was down. And even when he stood up, he was still down. Why are y'all dedicating time to this? So it was just bad overall for the officials. I mean, we've singled out 5 or 6 different plays, and then in true form, what an official does when they screw up one
makeup penalty,
they'll give you a makeup call, and they sure did do it.
No doubt.
The one we didn't mention though was the Snead late hit there. That was a bad play. I mean that's an undisciplined play there. The ball's clearly out. It's very similar to the kind of the passer, the roughing the passer, the first one on CJ Carr, where the ball was clearly gone. It was just a totally unnecessary hit. That's the one where Marcus Freeman, he was giving it to him good there on the sidelines. He was yelling at him, and it's probably the nicest words you could possibly imagine.
I was looking at that. I was like, hey, okay.
He's not happy. Well, then they yanked the defensive tackle they took out of the game when he got the encroachment penalty as well. So, I mean, we saw Marcus Freeman getting pretty agitated. So as many bad penalties there were for the refs in this game, there were a lot of undisciplined plays for the Irish in this one. Something that we've been talking about a lot this season. A lot of the same issues with Notre Dame, whether it's the 4th down conversion, the short yardage stuff, or the penalties. It's not really going away. That's my biggest concern with where the Irish are at right now.
And I understand Coach Freeman's frustration, because it's like, they practice this, and this goes back to something we talk. I remember it was always about the mental toughness. To when you're tired, you have to focus that much more. You have to think that much more clearly. So when these things happen, you don't make those mistakes, because those, like I said, some of those, with Jaden Snead, just a little agitation, a little frustration. You can't take that out on the field. You have to find another way to process that, whether it's frustration, anger, whatever it is. On the field is not when you let loose.
Gotta keep your composure all the time.
Keep your composure, stay disciplined, stay focused. And a lot of this is, taking those mental reps. And I'm, kind of Coach Freeman was talking about how, they were, it wasn't an off week, it was a bye week. And we talked about it, the importance of self-scout and, how do we get better? And I can imagine Coach Freeman, his well-groomed hair, he's pulling that out, because that was so far from, improvement. They went backwards.
They took a step backwards.
Took a step back. And as a coach, I can't imagine how frustrating that must be when I know they've addressed it and they still regressed. And you gotta, at some point in time, so we're the leaders on the team to stand up and say, hey, we're not going to do this. We're going to be better. You can coach it up, but it still comes back to the team taking a concerted effort to institute, hey, we're going to police ourselves to make sure we're taking care of things and doing things the right way. And again, I don't have a problem with celebrating, but you got to be mindful of how you do it, because
100%.
Especially when people are like the most minute things, they're looking for it now, and they don't want you to celebrate no way. So
what is the one where they hold their nose and what the heck does that mean?
That is my son-in-law gave me it's a tail or something, tail wag, like a fish or something, a shark. I never seen a shark like that, but it's do something with a shark. And so it's kind of like that 6'7" thing. It really doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Just doing it. They just do it just because
you and I have 14-year-olds. And look, I'm asking my daughter all the time about some of the new sayings and things like that. But I think it goes to the point that some of these penalties occur because you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds that still need to mature in some sense, still going through mental puberty, so you gotta have to deal with. They're not grown men, out there. So sometimes I think we ask them to be more mature than they really ought to be at that age. But when you play on a team, you still have to make yourself aware, have composure. But on the other point, Reggie, fatigue will make cowards of us all. And when Boston College started to do that up tempo, when you see those hands on the hips, and dudes rearing their hands back, like, oh Lord, they're gonna run that thing down. And they had 20 plays on that opening period. I mean,
21 plays, 11 minutes, and 20 seconds.
I was looking at it, and then I wasn't paying attention.
Away 3 points, right?
Yeah, and then I looked at the clock and it said 6 minutes. I'm like, that gone. They've had this ball a long time.
There's only 2 drives that quarter. It was had that one. Notre Dame had that one. That was it for the entire third quarter.
It's a precursor to what Navy does. That is
wild.
Yes.
Well,
speaking of Navy, that's the opponent next week. Unfortunately, they were one of the multiple teams that lost today. If they would have won, they probably would have been top 25. But we'll take our quick last break here when we get back. We get the official college football playoff rankings. The first ones come out this week. Where do we think the Irish will fall, and how much does this performance negatively affect the national view of this team? We'll get to that next year on the Irish Squad Show.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, guys, so we saw 2 AP top 10 teams lose today. Miami, which is not great for Notre Dame, and then we saw Vanderbilt lose to Texas in this one. So in the AP voting, I think we would all say safe to assume Notre Dame is secure in the top 12 at this point, but we don't know what the college football playoff rankings are going to look like because it's always a little bit different than the AP, at least it has been so far. Typically, they're a little harsher, I feel like, on 2 lost teams in this first one, but it's a new committee. So Allison, how do you feel like today's performance, even though it was a win, can affect Notre Dame going into Tuesday night?
Well, I don't think they did themselves any favors. Texas Tech won today. They had a 43-20 win over Kansas State, and Texas Tech is at 13 right now in the AP. So I would think that Texas Tech has a chance of possibly jumping Notre Dame. It definitely helped that Vanderbilt lost. They were coming in at number 9, and they're now at 7-2. So it'll be interesting to see where Vandy ends up in that. And I will say, as much as I knew Vanderbilt losing would help Notre Dame, I couldn't help but to kind of be rooting for them. And we talked about Clark Lee, and they're just such a great story. Pavia had a huge game. I mean, he finished with 365 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Plus he had a rushing touchdown, I believe. So, I mean, just a huge gutsy performance out of Pavia. Again, came up just short, finished that game 34-31 because Texas dominated them in that first half. But getting off topic there a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Notre Dame could be on the outside looking in this first one, but it just depends. Those 2 losses definitely help the Irish. But again, I think Texas Tech could possibly jump them. So they're going to be right in there, maybe 12, 13, maybe even 14, somewhere in that range. I don't know that they're going to move up at all with the 25-10 win. It was a win, but it was not impressive at all. We had a lot more negative things to talk about in this game than we did positive. And at this stage in the game, now you're looking at Navy next week, and Navy was undefeated. So that was looking good. Now they lost to a North Texas team. So it's not going to help the Irish at all either. And Navy's always really tough for Notre Dame to play. So they're in a kind of a tough position now moving forward. I think they'll get it together. I think they'll be able to handle Navy next week, but you don't have that confidence going in that I would have liked to have had. And you guys mentioned it. I mean, you look at an Indiana team, they played an inferior opponent and they absolutely dominated. 55-10, the final score there. We came so close to having Georgia get beat by my Florida Gators. That would have been huge. That would have been a big one for Notre Dame if Georgia would have gotten beat. But they held on to win their late late heroics. They finished out 24-20 to get that win. But yeah, I think I don't know. I'm going to be waiting with bated breath. We're watching Georgia Tech is playing right now against NC State. They're ranked number 8, and they're 8-0, and they're losing right now to NC State, but it's still early in the game. So we'll see that could play, we'll see how these other games shake up before we really know. But Tuesday is going to be really exciting to watch.
Well, we're talking about where and if Notre Dame will be in this first round of rankings. We don't even know who number 1 is going to be. Mm-hmm. It could be Texas A&M. It could be Ohio State. It could be Indiana, because the committee uses different metrics to determine who their number 1 seed is. And although I am hopeful Notre Dame will be in this round of rankings, it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't. But there's so much carnage left to be had in conference play that everything will work out for itself. That's why if Notre Dame continues to win out, don't worry about, how I used to say the most insignificant thing in life is the score at halftime. All right. So pretend this is halftime. This is just a first round. There's so much that has to happen. But if Notre Dame continues to control its controllables, then when the last round of rankings comes out, they should be there.
I want to throw out really quick, what are your thoughts on Miami losing? Miami was ranked above Notre Dame, but now they have 2 losses. That hurts Notre Dame in the sense of that was considered a good loss at the beginning of the season, but now Miami has 2 losses. So that's perplexing to me. They were ranked higher, so that should help Notre Dame in that sense. But then if it's 2-loss team versus 2-loss team, Miami's going to have the tiebreaker against the Irish.
Exactly. That was my thing, is with, Texas beating, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt will drop, but I don't think they'll drop below us because, again, they're SEC.
Right.
You're going to be hard pressed to drop Miami below us because, again, they beat us. So that's my thing, where I think we may wind up on the outside looking in. And, something you had mentioned, Alan, about who's number 1. I'd be hard pressed to see them not having Ohio State being number 1. I think 1-2 is looking pretty locked in. Ohio State, Indiana. But again, you look at say Georgia Tech. They're losing right now to North Carolina. I don't think they would drop below us because they would be a 1-loss team. Mm-hmm. So and then you also have Oklahoma, Tennessee. Whoever wins this game, if they're both ranked below us, but whoever wins the game may jump us.
Right.
Because again, they look at strength of schedule, and both those teams are in the SEC.
They also look at but they also look at some teams are ascending and some teams are descending. So that factors into it too.
Miami's descending for sure.
But Miami,
what would you say Notre Dame?
They're not going to drop them below us. They're not going to put them below us because they beat us. Period.
SMU though is unranked, so that's an ugly loss for them.
They have 2 ugly losses.
Yeah, they do.
But they still beat us.
Yes.
Right.
And again, their 2 losses are ugly losses, but they still beaten the head-to-head. That they the committee has said this multiple times. Head-to-head matters.
And they still keep a spot. They still keep a spot.
Yeah.
Because what we're looking at is you don't want 3 teams from the ACC getting in the playoffs. If there's 3 teams from the ACC getting in the playoffs, Notre Dame probably doesn't get in.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I feel like Tuesday we're going to see Notre Dame at 12. So the number will look nice, but when they expand it to the college football playoffs, it would have Notre Dame on the outside looking in, because that number 12 seed will go to Memphis if the current rankings fall as the non-power 4 team. So 11 is really the goal. 11 and up for Notre Dame to make the playoffs this year. Like, I don't think one of these American teams, whether it's or North Texas or Memphis or Tulane, even though they lost this week, that's the team that's going to be the 12 seed in the playoffs this year. So you got to be 11 or above, it feels like, to make it as a guarantee this year. So we'll see. I mean, it's a great question about Miami, because they look good then, but they don't look good now. So But to your point, Alan, you did say one thing. If they were to surprise us and to say SEC is better than the Big Ten, so A&M is number one, that helps out Notre Dame in a big way because you lost by a point. So the more they think of A&M, the better it is for the Irish. So it was not a pretty game today, guys, but the Irish won. Their playoff hopes are still well and alive. And we'll be back with you guys next week for our post-game show after they take on Navy, who lost today in non-pretty fashion. The Irish will open up as, again, like 24.5-point favorites in that game. So another big number for the Irish. You can catch – when's your guys' weekly show? Thursdays?
Thursdays.
Thursdays, you catch these guys with Tyler on Thursday right here on the Locked On Irish YouTube channel, as well as check out Tyler Wojak's show Monday through Friday. We'll be back with you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of the games on Saturday. Talk to you next week.